Hi, this is Piero. I want to talk about a sense of spirituality, and this has to do with spiritual atheism. And basically, it's the idea that as atheists, we can deny theism. We can deny certain types of spirituality. We can deny certain definitions of God. As is pointed out to atheists time and again, you can't disprove all definitions of God because that doesn't make sense. Somebody has to choose a definition of God and then you can prove or disprove it. I can't prove there isn't something out there that you would want to call God. For all I know, you want to call, Newcastle God. But if you say there's this omnipotent gods out there, well, I can show that that's logically incoherent. If you want to say there's a God that makes me breakfast, I notice that there is no breakfast waiting for me in the morning, and so forth. But what about the spiritual experience? Okay, what is the spiritual experience? Well, first of all, I just want to say people do have these, and I think all of us hopefully have had some sort of moment that corresponds to what I'm calling the spiritual sense. It's a sense of oneness. When you're in nature, sometimes things just click particularly idyllically. It feels like there's a sense to the world and things are interconnected. There's sort of a oneness, or in my way of looking at it, a connection, a connectivity between you and the rest of the universe, and you that's how you feel. Now, I consider that a sense, okay? Some of our senses are just virtual internal senses, granted. But they come from reality. When we feel hunger, this is related to a physical material state in the body. And since I believe, we have an embodied mind, and which has evolved around interpreting experiences, not only just interpreting senses, but even building new senses and interpreting the result, I think we're sort of bound that when we have these consistent perceptions, like spiritual perceptions, that we have to explain them. We still have these. I think that if an atheist is anti-spiritual to the degree of denying having these experiences, then, well, I kind of consider that, a dogmatic overreaction. But I think that the atheist is in danger of actually giving more weight to these experiences. Because you see, it's like this. Consider lust, okay? Now, lust does not feel like the desire to have children. But we know from like a genetic perspective, that is why we have the lust. That is why we've evolved it. So to interpret something like lust, you're having the feeling of lust, and to interpret it is somewhat complicated. It would be hard to derive from the nature of lust itself this fact that it's about procreation and love for these children and stuff. Lust can cause us to do all kinds of things, and it can go haywire and actually backfire and keep you out of a romantic relationship that it's trying to drive you into. It gives you the motivation, but not necessarily the expertise. So in a spiritual sense, it seems like it's about gods, but what does lust seem like it's about? I don't know, but it doesn't really relate to what it's really about. So I'm not saying that a spiritual sense would actually be connected with a metaphysical world. I'm especially not saying that because I don't believe in metaphysics. If something is beyond the physical connection with me, then as far as I'm concerned, that's another way of saying it doesn't exist. So I'm not saying that this spiritual feeling is a connection with God, but I'm also not accepting that, it's just a form of psychosis. I could ask you to explain persistent psychoses in the same way. Okay, there's obsessive compulsive disorder. What are the evolutionary meanings of that? What purpose does it serve? Is it always a detriment to survival? There's a lot of other questions we can ask about all of these so-called psychoses as well. Now, is it dementia? Well, no, it's not dementia, because dementia is a clinical definition of someone deviating from the norm. Having religious delusions is not a deviation from the norm, and having spiritual experiences is not a deviation from the norm. Most people that you talk to can find some, at least small number of experiences like this, where you have the spiritual experience, and it changes the course of your life. This is not just something that you want to ignore. This is something powerful in people's lives. So, if you're an atheist, how do you explain spiritual phenomena? Have you had spiritual experiences? What do you make of it all?